All right, looks like we are good to start. So, everybody, good evening and good morning, Unicorn fam. Zygration enthusiasts, rise up. I have a feeling that this is the town hall you've been looking for. We're here with Crypto Unicorn CEO and co founder, Aron Beierschmitt. And boy, do we have news for you. Let's have at it. Good morning, Aron. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Sparkly. Well, I did wake up a little sick, but I took a Theraflu and we're going to power through it. So if I start getting wonky, keep me on track.
Okay.
Yes, big day today. Let's dive in. I want to start by kind of walking everyone here through what I'm calling the Xi launch hype roadmap. So we'll start there and then dig into anon questions and continue. Cool. Primary goals of this entire Xi launch hype roadmap. One, maximize hype around crypto unicorns migration to Xi. Two, bootstrap early player growth to scale the economy. And three, solidify Xi as one of the dominant Web3 gaming ecosystems. TLDR, I've certainly spent the last few months really trying to think through every possible way I can reignite interest in our ecosystem, as well as, of course, its primary value token. Cool. There are 7 steps, my friends, to Valhalla. That's what I've been telling the team internally. So let's go through them. Step
Valhalla.
one. We're having fun today. Step 1, RBW to CU conversion. So this will kick off just before the end of April. We are actually less than 30 days from the beginning of migration kickoff, and we are less than 90 days from being live on Xi. So I know people came in here wanting timelines, like we are in the shit getting prepared. So with the RBW to CU conversion, players will use the Rainbow Bridge to automatically migrate RBW to Arbitrum. As part of that migration, they will end up with CU tokens on Arbitrum 1 at a 10-to-1 ratio from RBW to CU. So this is known, obviously, was a DAO vote. But yeah, the Rainbow Bridge is going to kind of do that simultaneously. It's one transaction to get CU tokens on ARB1. In tandem with this, I'll be migrating all of our protocol-owned liquidity to the Camelot DEX on Arbitrum. That's kind of our first major partnership. Camelot is an Arbitrum native Uniswap fork DEX that has always had the fee switch turned on. Their Grail token has done pretty well. And anyway, if you're not following Iron Boots on Twitter, he's hilarious and also shares a lot of good alpha on volume and fees that DEX generates. But I'm very excited to have them as a partner. They'll be doing a lot of co-marketing with us, in particular around our liquidity bootstrapping event, which will kick off the day we launch the Rainbow Bridge. So step 2 towards Valhalla is the liquidity bootstrapping event. It will run for, let me think about this. It'll run for roughly 2 months and end with the game coming online on Xi. For those of you who were here from the beginning, we had a very successful Copper launch. That's still the most successful Copper launch in Polygon's history. A big secret to that success was this kind of leaderboard staking event that we ran in tandem. So I'm very, very, very interested in kind of leveraging a liquidity bootstrapping event to help kick off success and obviously scale early stage liquidity. So the event design is pretty simple. If you stake CULP tokens, which is CU wrapped ETH, in our staking contract, you'll earn points over the course of the 60-day event. There's kind of bonuses for being in a bit earlier, obviously bonuses for staking, locking up your liquidity longer. The reward design will be effectively a lock drop with CU, Xi, Grail, and potentially ARB tokens, as well as game NFTs and loot boxes and things of that nature. With the kind of massive Xi grant that we have, it's going to be very easy for me to heavily incentivize liquidity here. and in particular, long-term liquidity providing. So I'm pretty excited about leveraging this event, which will sit on top of a very juicy base APY. I think if we scale to 4 or 5 million in not protocol and liquidity, but if we scale to 4 or 5 million in organic liquidity, you're still at hundreds of percent APY, predominantly in XI and Grail and potentially in ARB tokens. So we have this phenomenal opportunity to leverage tokens that are not CU necessarily as a way to bootstrap liquidity. If you're not familiar with Arbitrum, Arbitrum is where all the DeFi degens moved from ETH mainnet when it got too expensive. So the idea that this liquidity bootstrapping event will be co-marketed with Camelot, the Arbitrum team, obviously XI and others, I think is going to put a lot of attention around our ecosystem. And I don't know why in the world the selling point of you get a gaming ecosystem token, which has actually delivered more games to market than most of its competitors. You get a gaming infrastructure token in XI, which has done incredibly well. Then you'll get Grail, a DEX-based token that actually has fees delivered to it. And then again, potentially ARB. The reason I say potentially ARB is Arbitrum's in the middle of two of its stimulus programs. They're called STIPs. They had a long-term and a short-term one. Both of them ended recently, but we should see them kind of restart here soon. And obviously there's this massive gaming catalyst program, which will come online before the end of the year. So ARB tokens are very, very likely in the future, but just given the timing on that, it's TBD on whether or not we'll have them as a part of the liquidity bootstrapping event. So TLDR, an incentivized event to try to scale CU liquidity on the other side of this bridge, obviously bring interest and attention to our ecosystem and token and the imminent migration to XI. Next, a few weeks into the liquidity bootstrapping event, we'll do a big co-marketing push to announce a play to airdrop campaign. We've obviously seen this narrative work well for some of our competitors. XI is very pumped about pushing this very hard. And we'll have a series of kind of engagement events, including kind of a pre-game points program for social media engagement. And obviously the goal here is to continue to build hype and anticipation in the lead up to the migration itself. And my hope, of course, is that this drives further engagement into the liquidity bootstrapping event. The core game migration will occur from late May into roughly mid to late June. So there'll be about 3 weeks of downtime in which the game itself is down, and we're migrating all of the data from Polygon mainnet to XI mainnet. During this time, we're going to run a Unicorn Party launch event. Both Bingo and Solitaire will be live at that point, as well as Mob Run and Bumpercorns. The goal here is really to keep both the community engaged as well as drive hype around XI. You're going to see us launch a user acquisition campaign here on the Web 2 side of things, with this goal of hitting tons of installs, very similar to the Heroes of Marvia playbook. We're going to be pushing a Web 2 vampire attack narrative. Through third web wallets, we'll be driving a lot of on-chain transactions that are obviously very frictionless. Given a third web wallet, you just sign in with your social login, it spins up an embedded wallet for you. And we'll obviously be showcasing a lot of growing wager volume. Big alpha leak is we are the first project, to my knowledge, to have Apple approval for crypto wagering. This is something that the Apple reviewers literally asked us about, and we responded truthfully to, and then they approved the app. So that'll be a huge narrative. Again, we saw this with Heroes of Marvia, a Clash of Trash kind of clone that very much drove a bunch of hype and interest around their ecosystem, their project, and of course their token. So we can do this too. It's a great opportunity to kind of lean into this, drive a ton of activity on XI. We expect a lot of organic installs just coming from the XI network based on some of the early traction a few of the real simple kind of games that have launched on XI have had. So the core game migration, again, about 3 weeks of downtime. There'll be this Unicorn Party launch event running. And then at the end of that, the game is suddenly live on Xi. Two things happen simultaneously with the launch. One is a great corn drop to Xi node holders, which I think is going to be enormously successful. The goal here is to try to get the Xi node holders and Xi stakers to obviously engage with our project and have an opportunity to come try and play the game. So very excited on that front. And I think it's, these have been very hit or miss for us in the past. And I think this is a really highly targeted group that is heavily aligned with us. The thing I love about the Xi team is they very much understand we want and need to see a pixel style narrative off the back of this migration, right? With respect to crypto unicorns. So inflecting growth, driving interest and attention to the project is where we're so heavily aligned, because for Xi to have value, it needs games that have value. And I've just, again, having met them again, face to face at GDC and spent a lot of time with Toby and Sobi and some of the other team on the, some of the other core contributors, it's been really phenomenal on that front, and couldn't have asked for better alignment. Great. Obviously, with the great corn drop, we'll also kick off the play to airdrop season 1, which of course we plan to push on as hard as possible. Roughly a month after that, we'll have the Rainbow Rumble relaunch, new content on that front, new levels, a lot of tweaks based on the open beta feedback. We'll be running another major creator cup, and then trying to leverage Xi's partnership with Team Secret to continue getting as much obviously interest and attention as we can around Rainbow Rumble. So again, this opportunity where Unicorn Party, you have the core game itself, and then Rainbow Rumble kind of back to back to back, each discrete and separate moments in which we have an opportunity to, obviously introduce our ecosystem to an entirely new group of players and participants, obviously in the wider Arbitrum Xi ecosystem. Cool, that's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of the year, just as a quick note, will be continuing to layer on the build and battle 4X strategy PvP elements, the launch of the match 3 team RPG loops, etc. So taking kind of this wonderful social foundation we have with the first release of Tribes and continuing to layer on more strategic gameplay elements on top of that, which we think will continue to drive interest and attention to the project, and obviously give new avenues and ways for players to come in and begin to participate in our overall ecosystem. All right, Sparkly, that's it for the hype roadmap. Let's get to Anon questions.
And what a hype roadmap it is. Chat looks very excited. We're spamming your new favorite emoji, Aaron.
It is my new favorite emoji.
All right, and before we get started with the questions, let's run by the rules. We don't have a limit to the number of questions right now, and let's see, we are more lenient than the usual 1 hour limit for town hall, and we're going to try to keep answering all of your questions until we have to go. So for any questions related specifically for your account or a Zendesk issue, please reach out to us on the mod support channel so the CM team can take care of that for you. To ask a question in voice, press the request to speak button. The button looks like a raised hand, and you can queue up at any time. Once we accept your request, you'll see a green bar at the top of your Discord. Click accept to begin speaking. We also have written questions that's on the feedback channel. So just take note that we prioritize spoken questions, though, over written ones. But the very first questions that we have are the anonymous questions. We have a ton of them right now, so I'm cutting them off. If you want to ask another question, chat, you need to type it out on the Town Hall 54 questions. Thank you, Tarek, for linking that. Or you can come up to the stage and ask. Okay. So first off, can the specific time point of the migration plan be announced? Well, we kind of did that already.
Yeah, TLDR, we're less than 90 days from being live on Psy, and the beginning of the migration, exactly. The beginning of the migration is less than 30 days out with the RBW to CU conversion and the kickoff, conversion and migration, and the kickoff of the liquidity bootstrapping event. So soon, friends, soon.
Soon TM, but actual soon. All right. Next up, we have a Tribes question. Relating to joining tribes, are we able to have a CV and application and chat process in the game UI itself? I'm very security conscious and I don't trust Discord's conversations and sharing details with strangers. However, I do trust Ethereum and conducting tribe conversations and applications on chain. That would really encourage me to move forward with that part of the game experience.
That's an interesting idea. I'm not sure we have considered anything like that to date. I appreciate where people kind of want things to be more on chain and that record and history being there. It's something, it's something we can continue to think about. I will say we are very focused on how we leverage tribes as a recruitment mechanism, obviously, for the game itself, right? Forex strategy games and guilds inside of those games are the predominant growth tool that those games use, right? Because you get into these guilds or tribes, right? You obviously get onboarded and helped, et cetera. And so we have talked about chat and things like that inside of the game. We have not talked about running chats and things on chain. So something we'll think about.
All right, chat, we're going to think about it, but it is very interesting. Let's see. Another Anna question. Would you be open to accepting tokens from other projects to disperse via the leaderboards in the future? Yes, it promotes the project, but CU players can speculate on value through leaderboard grinding. It's an interesting skill. What do you think?
For sure. I really don't have or wouldn't have much hesitation in offering other tokens. The Xi network is doing a very good job of kind of bringing obviously a bunch of development partners together, and there are a lot of discussions around how we can each kind of collectively leverage each other's tokens as shared rewards, and almost like what we used to have with cross promo between games, right? So yeah, definitely very interested in that. Certainly would not be opposed.
All right. So if you guys want to accept or want to introduce other projects who want to give us tokens to disperse via the leaderboards, you know who to call. Next up, what is your long-term view on Unim? Are you considering taking it off-chain in the future? What are the positives and negatives in your opinion?
We've been talking a lot about this internally. I always look at the Unim experiment as one that unlike other projects, we haven't hyperinflated it. Again, there's less Unim circulating than we need to evolve the current set of babies. And so I've always kind of wanted to see Unim in a market in which we had growth into our economy. I will say this, the one thing I hate about Unim is I don't like being in a place where it's unpredictable. Its inflation is unpredictable. One of the biggest lessons that I have certainly learned running a live game in this space coming up on 2 years now is very much that I'm tired of being the central bank. I do not want to be JPOW. So, the thought that I've been having is like, how do we codify the monetary policy of Unim and even CU over time in a way in which everyone can look at the system and understand for any given amount of demand and engagement, like how tokens are going to flow inside of that system. And so it's funny to get this question. Yesterday, I did kind of propose a little bit of a radical idea to the design team around setting Unim against kind of an exponential decaying curve and tying everyone's ability to get at Unim based on their progression engagement over that day. So you can kind of think of it like there's a finite amount of Unim in the system per day to get, and your ability to get it is going to be the progression of your gathering carts, your use of high tier, high stat, mythic corns, things of that nature relative to everyone else's. And then how do we basically turn land into ASIC miners? And the more land that comes on, obviously the more available Unim, but every single day there's not more land online, technically there's less. So how do we create a system where everyone can look at this and just understand how tokens flow in and out of the system? I'm so fucking tired of being the central bank. I don't want to do it. The number of times we've had to tighten the economy and the perception of that being, nerfs time and time and time again. It's just not fun. It's not interesting. If we ever do another project, it will absolutely have the monetary policy embedded into the smart contract mechanism design. And so to wrap it up, I don't consider Unum a failure yet, but we are looking at ways to remap it based on everything that we've kind of learned. And that statement of how do we codify the monetary policy in a way that everyone just understands for any given amount of demand, here's how much Unum will flow out of the system. I really think that is the right way to go. So expect some ideas from us on that front. I don't think we're going to make any changes in the lead up to the Xi migration, but it's something we've talked about as a big kind of talking point post migration would be, some changes overall to Unum. Great question. That was a very timely question based on some of the discussions we're having.
Wow, whoever asked that, y'all doing great. Let's have another Anon asking, could you go into more detail about the Xi grant, such as how much the grant was for or when it will be officially announced with Xi?
Obviously, in June, when we start getting tokens, everyone's going to know how many we got. We got very lucky to close this deal prior to their token generation event, and the Xi team has asked us not to reveal the amount of tokens that we got. I can sit here and say, we have 8 figures worth of Xi tokens at the current price of Xi. So it is a massive grant. I do believe it's one of the largest grants, if not the largest grant that they have given. So really phenomenal to have closed that deal in December, again, prior to their token generation event. And it's really gotten us embedded with that Xi team because we took a bet before the token was even, generated, right, and listed and stuff. And so that thinking back on 2023 as a year and some of the shit show that was that year, and to have ended it kind of with this massive opportunity, I feel both incredibly fortunate and obviously super, super excited kind of going forward. So again, out of respect for what Xi's asked us to do, because they gave us a massive kind of grant and they've got obviously a lot of other partners that they're negotiating with, we're keeping mum on it. But again, I can say it is over 8 figures at the current price of Xi. Which, as I mentioned earlier, right, I look at Xi as player acquisition dollars, user acquisition dollars, right? And the phenomenal opportunity we have, which I don't think has really ever existed in this space before, is having, quite the imbalance. Obviously, we hope CU continues to scale here as a token and gets, takes its rightful place amongst the competition. But until that happens, we have this phenomenal opportunity to leverage Xi as a way to bootstrap liquidity into the project, player liquidity, both capital and player liquidity. Sorry, that's the Theraflu messing with me.
Theraflu versus Aron.
We're fighting a good fight. I may lose here live in the town hall, though.
No, I believe it. Chad believes.
No, for sure. And I mean, Sagarion's making a really good point here. If he's talking about liquidity miners, you have to understand Arbitrum is this massive network in terms of liquidity, right? It is the largest L2 by a very sizable margin. It is 6 or 7 times the liquidity of Polygon, maybe even more than that now. And the thing that I've always thought would be our secret weapon is our willingness to really embrace the space. There's very few game devs that even really know what liquidity bootstrapping is and would launch one of these programs. And if you think about the Arbitrum degens who want to deploy liquidity and farm tokens, what better farm than, again, an up and coming gaming ecosystem token that has high potential upside. You've got a gaming infrastructure token in Xi that has done phenomenally well. And then you're getting Grail, a DEX token that actually passes fees. And then you throw ARB and, the largest L2s token on top of that. Again, it creates this moment where I don't know why our liquidity bootstrapping, event is not going to be successful, right? It'll stun me if we don't appeal to the kind of DeFi degens that are very much looking for opportunities to earn, top tier tokens in this bull run.
Absolutely. And speaking of ARB, we have a question here. Are there plans to apply for the ARB Gaming Catalyst program, which is currently in a snapshot vote that should pass March 22nd, called Catalyze Arbitrum Gaming? Hadouken! Or does this conflict with the Zai partnership?
There are several avenues to getting ARB grants. Given the scale of the Zai grant, I'm not sweating it. I met many members of the ARB team, Arbitrum, or I should say the Off-Chain Labs team at GDC. Obviously, the Gaming Catalyst program we would certainly qualify for. There's a lot of announcements. I don't want to steal Sobi's alpha, but there's a big, we'll call it maybe ecosystem fund on the Zai front getting announced. So there's many different avenues for us to pursue. And yes, this Hadouken did pass. You're looking at, I think, 400 million ARB in specifically for games on Arbitrum. So that program gets spun up later in the year. LG Nanessa, our governance manager, is very focused on looking at different opportunities for us to win. I shouldn't say win. I mean, opportunities for us to obviously get Arbitrum grants via the various programs. They had a long-term and short-term kind of incentive program that did have small carve-outs for gaming. Those just ended. One of them is about to turn back on. And so anyway, I can't point to anyone specifically and say that's the one that we're kind of going forward with, but it'll be very likely that we'll receive ARB grants through one, if not several of the programs over time.
All right. Next up, do you have plans to onboard more folks to bring attention to the Crypto Unicorns game/brand, such as Twitch streamers or similar?
Big time. I mean, we're going to be making the largest KOL push we've ever made in the entire history of the project over the next 90 days. This is across Mitch's efforts, the Zai crew, and even working with some of our market makers on this front. So yeah, again, biggest KOL push we've ever had in the next 90 days. So you're going to see this kicking off basically with the initial token migration and conversion and the kickoff of the liquidity bootstrapping event. And that will run all the way through the play to airdrop season 1. So yes, tons of plans on that front. Obviously, Zai is partnered with Team Secret. Specific to Rainbow Rumble, we plan to run another major creator cup and try to bring in, obviously, a number of streamers, both inside and outside of Web3. That'll be something that Zori and other members of the team are kind of taking on and focusing on. So yeah, I would say very much yes to that question.
Love to hear it. Speaking of streaming and RR, I am streaming RR chat. We did do a stream a couple hours ago, and we will be streaming the next day until the 30th. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Winners of RR rounds get mythic loot boxes. So
Ooh.
I hope you make it. Heck yeah. Next up, another Anon. Do you have any current arrangements or future plans to work with market makers to help with future sex liquidity and integrations?
Yeah, I mean, we already work with DWF. We are looking at onboarding GSR, which is another market maker in the space. And then we leverage, so yes, the answer is very much yes. But we already have several market makers on board. And the huge goal here, especially working with the Zai team, is obviously getting listing on higher tier centralized exchanges. I think, we're not very interested in fragmenting our liquidity across a bunch of tier 2 exchanges at this point. We've already got, I would say, a pretty good starting set of centralized exchanges. And now the focus is very much like, how do we, get to the Bybits of the world and beyond. So it's a long process on that front, but I do think the Zai hype and momentum is the right opportunity to breaks through the noise, because that's kind of critical. You got to break through the noise. Centralized exchanges are very simple. They want tokens that drive volume, so they earn fees, right? And so if we continue to see that trend, and in particular post the liquidity bootstrapping event that accelerates, we'll be in a really great position on that front. So yeah, very, very focused on trying to scale that.
Ooh, hype. Next up, how long do you anticipate the RBW to CU migration to take?
I mean, we will flip the switch on turning off the whitelist, I guess is what I mean by flip the switch. The Rainbow Bridge at that point will be open, and players can immediately cross the bridge at that point. So it's not like it's going to, and again, this is less than 30 days out. It'll be towards the end of April that we kick this off and launch the liquidity bootstrapping event. So that's effectively the timeline there. But once we flip that switch, anybody can migrate their RBW across to Arbitrum and get CU tokens. To be clear, there will be this awkward point for about 30 days before the game goes offline where you're still earning RBW inside of the game. Liquidity will be on ARB1 and the liquidity bootstrapping event will be kicking off. So anyone looking to get liquidity, you'll stash out, you'll hop across the Rainbow Bridge, which is based on Layer 0 tech. Massive shout out to them. They're going to be a co-marketing partner of ours, but I'm always, anyway, been very happy with their tech and the ease at which we've been able to integrate that. So.
All right. And one more question. Is CU going to be considered Zai's flagship game on day 0?
That's certainly the hope. That's certainly the hope. There is one other project that will be announced soon that I'm very excited about. I think it's a good overlap with our player base, and it will bring a level, very significant level of attention to Zai that I think is good. Again, with a heavy overlap around players. So they're the only project that I've seen that I think competes with us in terms of, not competes with us in terms of players, but is a very well-known project. It's been around for a long time. But yeah, we are very much one of the flagship partners. And I do believe based on our timeline, we're going to be the first.
Okay. Next up, this is the last anonymous question, and then we're going to be moving forward with written questions. And also, if you'd like, you can hop on to chat by requesting to speak, and we can have you on the stage. Okay, last question, anonymous. Hello, with the hype coming to CU, we can clearly see a huge increase in demand for unicorns and RBW and Unim, but not lands. Currently, demand on lands is pretty low, and the vending machine seems unneeded. How do you feel about decreasing the max land supply from 1 million to, let's say, 50K to 100K? I don't think we need a lot of lands because we have many game loops, and not everybody is going to farm.
Ultimately, to mint out 1 million land, you need roughly 80,000-90,000 players, right? Based on 16 lands per wallet, right? So it's one of those situations where you might be right from a snapshot of where we're at today, but the hope very much here is that these Web3 gaming ecosystems scale to tens of millions of players over time. And you're right, most of those players will play the other games in the loop or play, Arena, Team RPG, or come in and participate in the PvE side for guilds if they want. So again, land is 1 million might sound like a lot, but we're all hoping here that these games actually hit mainstream and scale. And so I've told our investors, like, are there 80,000 people globally that would want to engage in land gameplay, and how do we find that 80,000 very core group of players that want to participate? So the design of the land vending machine is working as intended. When there is low demand, players buy land from each other on the secondary, right? When there's high demand and demand in particular for new land, it suddenly makes sense again to go to the vending machine and mint new land. So We'll see, but it doesn't make sense to me to make changes to the overall amount of land, especially right before the biggest opportunity I think we've had for growth in our entire history, right? So let's get on the other side of the migration and then begin to look at changes. I will say I'm not opposed to making changes over time to the land vending machine, including reducing it or changing the bonding curves, but generally, I don't think the timing is right to touch it.
All right, well said and fair. Okay, with that being the end of our anonymous questions, we have a speaker coming on. The Truth, please come on stage. Hey, good morning.
Hey, how's it going? Good morning. Yeah, this is similar to kind of the sentiment there about the land gameplay. Um, my thoughts on it are just more of that we're growing increasingly in distance between entry and whales in terms of the land gameplay, and I'm worried about anyone new getting onto the game being able to participate in anything but sort of the mini games and the small tasks and things, only because for me at the moment the land gameplay is more of a task that I do every day and not necessarily a very engaging, exciting kind of thing that I participate. I don't know if I would play the game necessarily if the kind of profits weren't similarly there at the moment. Some of the other games I would play casually on my phone, but the land gameplay, when we do migrate and we do look to get new users, just the entry for being able to be profitable, it seems very large in terms of the average user. So I'm just a little bit concerned about kind of the future of land gameplay in terms of more people getting involved. So I'm curious to hear if you agree with that or if you disagree and think that sort of a new player has the ability to spend maybe $20, $30 and kind of get in on that and make some money down the road. Sorry. Thank you.
Land gameplay is the bottom of the funnel. It is the core game at the base and the root of it. So everything you're saying is, in my mind, by design. It's one of the ways you build a sustainable system is you kind of force players to come in and put their money where their mouth is at so that they start from a position of power. That said, the entire progression of the tribes roadmap is designed to help solve some of the problems that you're talking about, right? When we signed our publishing deal with Warner Brothers, they set me down and said that we want you to solve the calcification and stratification that occurs in Forex strategy games over time. And it's what you're talking about. It's the players who've been here, grinded for years, spent lots of money. How do you allow a noob to on-ramp in? Our answer to that is very much realm progression, which will be a way in which tribes kind of compete against each other and climb effectively a ladder of realms over time. And so you can have a brand new noob tribe that isn't getting smashed by our top tribes today because they're in the lower realms, right? And so the opportunity there, I think, is to help drive that forward. I'm very interested in how do we leverage match 3 team RPG. For example, there might be an option we pursue where tribes can recruit players in for free, where tribes set aside a chunk of unicorns in a pool that can be utilized by people coming in to grind out the match 3 PvE components and kind of this warrior class of players. And the opportunity there is a player can come in and start for free, right? And their skill is going to determine whether or not the tribe kind of keeps them around, right? So that's a very interesting option on that front. Obviously, it's free, right? So the opportunity to kind of start there, I think, is very interesting. Arena PvP is something that we need to not discount. It may be my biggest mistake not putting that at the beginning of the product roadmap, but we're here. Arena PvP is a 5v5, real-time battler, right, around match 3. and you only need 5 unicorns to play. So again, if you want to start free, you go and put your skill on the line in Unicorn Party. And over time, maybe you're lucky enough to rank on a leaderboard and get an NFT adult unicorn airdrop. Great. Now you can go and play Rainbow Rumble if you would like, right? So again, your concern, I just don't think is, I'm just not worried about it, right? I'm just not worried about it based on where we're headed with tribes.
I like to hear that confidence, and I really do enjoy the idea of, you know, if I go into a new game and, I start playing it and it's free and I enjoy the actual game, just kind of competing, doing the skill that then I have opportunity to, you know, sort of invest in that a little bit more. To think that that's a great idea for tribes is uh different games. So you have the Rainbow Rumble, you have the Match 3, you have all of the games in the ecosystem, and you can have the tribes have their own kind of professional gaming, people on those specific games. So you could, someone who's really skilled at, Fall Guys or one of these types of games, you could recruit them in from another game that's kind of ported over to unicorns that then they could actively earn money so that you could sort of have the tribes promote these, professional gamers, but in the crypto unicorns environment. So I'd like to hear that. I think maybe I'm just thinking a little bit more short term, and you're thinking long term of when we, a couple years down the road have 10,000, 20,000 more daily active users that are participating in the grand ecosystem that you can kind of start small by playing skill games and go from there. That I like that.
That's certainly the grand vision. I think it can happen a lot quicker than people here perhaps anticipate. And again, tribes is a very important component of that. Like tribes is not this infinite progression, just upgrade your buildings and get a higher GemWorks. Like that's what you see now. But again, we always ship MVPs and layer on top of that. I just won't ever change that strategy. It's been the strategy for 2 years. I know certain people here do not like that strategy, but it is in stark contrast to our competition. And so you have to be looking at the remainder of the year and the tribe PvP stuff. When your tribe gets match made with another tribe and you're fighting against them and you're showing up in their LOD3 and coordinating with your team and grinding out those battles, there's going to be a lot of strategic and really engaging gameplay on that front, right? You talk about the farm game being a chore, like you're talking, again, we're coming up on 2 years of people playing that, all games fatigue. And to a certain extent, don't ignore all of the changes that we've made to enhance that experience and make it easier. And what you're going to see is us continue to make the farm grind less and less and less and less as the additional loops occur, so that you're way more focused inside of your tribe on the strategy of going after another tribe, attacking another tribe in LOD 3. And, again, leaning into those gameplay elements that are much more like quote unquote fun, right? And engaging. And the opportunity, of course, is to then scale the audience from there.
If I could real quick, I think there's like 2 elements that we're working on building up here, where one side is the infrastructure. You can almost think of the current core game and your tribe as like we're working together to build this infrastructure. And what's going to be coming later with tribes, as Aron is talking about with the match 3 and the active battles and the targeting other tribes and stuff, that's like the actual gameplay, the nuts and bolts of it, and everyone can do both, but for the archetype of, hey, I have a lot of resources, I'm more of a whale, you can build the infrastructure and participate on that kind of like core, I want to breed, I want to craft stuff, I want to actually turn the wheels of the economy. But then we'll have this connection for, oh, I'm just like a really, really good match 3 player. Now I can come in, I can do my part, I can make my contributions. I don't really care about infrastructure. I'm just happy to leverage the infrastructure that's existing.
100%.
I think that's one thing that
100%.
Pixels has done very well that we need to lean into as well, and that's the current plan.
So 100% agree with you there on, I think the infrastructure and the gameplay and all the loops that you guys are building is phenomenal. And we're, starting to ramp up maybe the marketing, just in the 2 year, and I've been here since the start. And I see a lot of other communities have more of a community engagement on the crypto Twitter, on the marketing, on the other things where people really get into kind of the universe that you're building. With crypto unicorns, I feel that we have a million, we have our core game players are very passionate, as you can see by, kind of all of the Discord discussions, the amount of effort that goes into some of the proposals and things. But I feel like we might be falling flat, and I'm sure you guys are already ramping things up. But with some of the marketing, some of the engagement, there's a bunch of different platforms that we can kind of be on to promote. And I know that you guys are doing the giveaways and things like that. But it seems like sometimes we are like, oh, we've got this great marketing thing, we've got this great giveaway happening, and it happens, and then everything falls flat, and the hype is gone, the engagement is gone. I don't see too many new people coming into the Discord, kind of being like, oh, I love the community, I love, think Sappy Seals, think some of these other bigger, some of just maybe community projects and PFPs that kind of, they have less of an architecture, less of a infrastructure built, 100x less than what Crypto Unicorns has. Their community is 100 times stronger, and they have more notoriety, and they have, they're listed on 20 different platforms. People want to buy their PFP just to join the community, just so that they can get opportunities to go into other things, get airdrops, get all these other things. And I feel like with Crypto Unicorns, I'm all in. I love it. It's been great. But where are the new people coming and feeling that same vibe, feeling the same community vibes? So I don't know if it's a marketing thing or what, but I've seen we've launched on a few different platforms like Games or GAM3S and kind of all these other partnerships, but they just kind of fizzle out, right? Like we're not consistently there on those platforms being like, hey, Crypto Unicorn is one of the strongest communities in this platform, in this partnership, in this whatever. And so that would be one of my only biggest concerns going forward. Sorry for all of the feedback and appreciate what you guys do. Thanks.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that Aaron mentioned earlier, like we have a pretty robust marketing roadmap, but we don't, how to say it, it's still being formulated, and we need the exact numbers to really dive into some of the details on, like, the plan for the token migration and, having the exact date of when we're going to migrate the core game. Mitch is doing a lot of stuff under the hood right now in terms of organizing KOLs and trying to create all that buzz. It needs to happen around a time where we have this narrative and the momentum is actually inflecting. In the past, we saw RBW kind of start to make a little movement, and then there's like this huge sell wall of, people sort of thinking, hey, if I sell now, I can just buy back cheaper. Just looking at the token chart, it seems like we're starting to see that change a little bit, where people are holding instead of dumping, and this like, well, I might not get to buy back in that much cheaper, so all things equal, I'm just going to kind of sit on what I got from jousting this weekend, that kind of vibe. So that's a really key part of the narrative that I think has been hard for the marketing side. Some of that is just the market in general, right? Like gaming is starting to heat up again. The market is starting to heat up again. It is a little bit of an excuse to say, oh, market sentiment, but there is a tidal wave, right? And this migration, I think, is perfectly timed with the halvening. That incoming tidal wave, as the gaming narrative picks up, everything that we saw at GDC. If you didn't listen to the Twitter space we did yesterday, I would encourage you to tune in. Very bullish on just the vibe and the sentiment and the current merge of blockchain gaming and just regular gaming, and some of that skepticism starting to not fade per se, but we're chipping away at it. There's a consistent narrative that we're all a part of that is starting to work here. So I would say come back in 1 quarter's time and let's have the same conversation, and then you tell me if you still feel the same way. We're really in the quiet before the storm right now, in my humble opinion. Aaron, I don't know if you've got anything else on that front.
Yeah, I mean, no, everything you said is correct. And you just got to understand there's no reason right now for us to be out pushing things super, super, super hard. But obviously, Sobi from Zai posts, the transaction of wrap CU on Zai, right? We're testing all the bridge and everything. And I'm pretty sure that going out is driving some of the momentum that we're seeing right now. So you have to understand that, like, things are actually happening. You're coming to us on a day in which things are happening. But also keep in mind, there's no reason to go hard on this, especially until we're right there in the lead up to migration. I don't know if you were here earlier, the truth, but I literally went through the whole hype roadmap and discussed a lot of the specific marketing beats. I understand in the past, this has been our weakness, especially relative to other projects in the space. And very much are looking to be to course correct with this Zai migration. So
glad to hear it. Sorry I missed the first part of it where you explained all that. But thank you guys. Look forward to everything coming up.
Oh yeah, man. I was also gonna come up to say at the beginning part of what the truth said, where it's hard for new players. I would encourage everyone who's listening right now who has a lot of unicorn assets, especially ones that are bred out, list them on the market, right? We have a lot of new eyeballs coming in, a lot of new people taking interest in unicorns. Our community has been very strategically good at keeping the best genetics for themselves and keeping those best unicorns very close, not listing them for sale. But if you've got some older ones that are bred out, even like an 1,800 total stats corn, a 2,000 total stats corn, for somebody coming in new, if you can get a bargain like that, those corns are very useful for farming. They can do stuff in jousting more often than not. So if you've got a big bank of corns and you've been lazy to list them, just community call. Please do. We could use more floor corns. Even if you got a bunch of floor corns that you've been hanging on to, list them, get them out there. Make entry points for new people to come in. I'm not saying floor everything. I'm just saying, like, figure out a price that feels good for you and get some stuff out there, because speculators want to come in and want to be able to, get a head start in the game from their perspective relative to where you would start at ground zero.
Chat is saying marketplace. Do we have marketplace updates?
The custom marketplace is in testing and will launch with the game on Zai. So we will have the custom marketplace land there, which I'm super pumped about. Obviously, make finding the right corns, genetics, etc., a ton easier. Obviously, Venticelo's tool has been incredibly helpful and will continue to be incredibly helpful. But yeah, having the custom marketplace live and a kind of a single place for people to go and find corns is going to be great. It's one thing that's kind of been on my list, is to try to maybe have a little event around listing and selling on that marketplace. But generally, I'm just pumped to have our own custom native marketplace.
Super pumped, and I'm pretty sure Chad's excited as well. They've been waiting for that marketplace for a while, and they're going to love it. I just know. All right, let's look at the list of questions that we have for Town Hall. Mef6 is asking, what do the relationships with seed investors look like? Are they assisting you with listing on SEX or with the strategy of achieving high volume, or are they not very interested?
How do I put this politically? We're doing it all ourselves. Investors tend to write checks and then move on to their next project, right? So yeah, a little unfortunate on that front. Obviously, they were incredibly helpful early on, and I think some of our early success was driven by that. So I'm not hating on anybody here. But yeah, a couple years in, they're deploying their next funds, and so we check in quarterly. But at this point, the real help is coming from the Zai team, from the Off-Chain Labs Arbitrum ecosystem. Like, that's where the warm intros are getting made to everything that we need. So not bearish at all, but just generally staying focused on the Zai crew and leveraging them for those kind of partnerships.
All right. Next up, RxIS is asking about Shadow Corn rewards being distributed. I'll get that answer for you later. Next up, Sigarian. Sigarian wants building animations for tribes buildings. How do you feel about that?
Sorry, what?
Sigarian wants animation for tribes buildings. I guess he wants them to like bounce around or wiggle.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming, in particular with like tribe PvP. So you have war machines. You're going to have all this stuff kind of on the map, and then obviously shit's going to catch on fire if you're tearing down other people's stuff. And so anyway, we're moving in that direction. We're also looking at doing some cool stuff to allow more customization on LOD3. Obviously, we have a pretty sweet kind of player level achievements system, which will launch. With the migration release build. And so a lot of cool stuff on that front that's, further leaning into customization and things of that nature. And I really want, again, when you show up in someone else's LOD3, their tribe, right, and you're looking at, strategizing on how you're going to go about attacking this tribe and trying to obviously get to their town hall before they get to yours, we're really trying to figure out ways to make that feel fun and exciting and basically make everything feel pretty fresh on that front, depending on, what strategies are taken and kind of how things play out.
All right. Be on the lookout for that, Sigarian. Next up, question from Legion. What does the transfer of assets look like from polygons and Zaya? Are we also going to use the Rainbow Bridge?
NFT assets are automatically getting migrated across. So when we take the core game down, we'll be pausing contracts and then migrating their data, their state across to Zai mainnet. So you will be able to show up post the migration and have your assets without you needing to do anything. You will have to migrate your RBW. You will have to migrate your Unim. The Rainbow Bridge, I guess I didn't mention this earlier, but the Rainbow Bridge during the core game migration will activate to allow you to bridge Unim directly to Zai. We're going to use the Camelot DEX on Zai for Unim liquidity. So yeah, otherwise everything kind of automatically gets migrated across for everyone.
To hear it. And in general, the CM team is going to be submitting a bunch of guides for anything that you're going to need to transfer if you are going to need to do anything manually. And for any questions, we're going to be handling for you. Okay, let me see. We have Goliath Rules requesting to speak. Hey, come up on stage. Good morning.
Who let this guy in here?
Hello?
Kinda. You sound really far away. You sound like you're in the kitchen.
Hold on. Let me come back. I'll be back in a second.
Oh, okay. Bro just wanted to say hi.
He's got 5 microphones. They're all plugged into random holes. Doesn't know which one goes where.
Mood.
Okay.
There we go.
Hey,
There we go.
nice.
There we go. Yes, I actually do have 5 microphones. They're all plugged into random holes. So
Really?
yeah. So no, hey. So I wanted to say hello to everybody. Honestly, if you haven't had a chance to listen to the spaces yesterday, it was a great conversation about the conference and that. I mean, there's a lot of really good things I think from our marketing standpoint that I heard that was going on there. I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes and that. And I have to say that the tribes experience from our end and that, I mean, I don't think folks really understand if they are kind of floating on the outside as to how much you actually build a little family when you start to get into this. That we had a community in Thud with Trade Hunter United Domain, but the tribes thing really brought it together like solid. And I think that is honestly one of the great things that I've seen out of it. And the funny thing we're talking about is you sort of end up making a marriage with a bunch of folks from around the world that you didn't fully expect to marry up with in that. But I've had folks say that they really like the dialogue, they really like the interface, and we're really looking forward to the war aspect of it and that, and taking on a few of the other tribes and that. And so no, I just wanted to come up and say good job. Looking forward to the migration. Obviously, we know that Polygon uh, is not ideal. So, in lack of better words. So, but yeah, I think a lot of lessons learned, like you said the other day, Aaron, from Pirate Nation, that they've sort of given you some tips on the migration away from Polygon and onto Arbitron. And I think that in the end, we have confidence that you guys will get it done. The only thing I think that folks need to realize is obviously there's going to be some downtime, right? I mean, I guess the question is that are you expecting that the game will have to be put on pause for like maybe a few days or something like that? I guess that's the one question that we had.
Yeah, it will be. As I mentioned earlier, there's roughly 3 weeks of downtime to migrate all the data across. What we'll be doing is running a big unicorn party event. And honestly, it's kind of funny. It's happening, roughly 2 years after launch. Everybody should take a little bit of a break, plan your vacations, because once the game comes back online, it's going to be kind of a mad dash, and obviously, hopefully, an influx of player liquidity, and really, really exciting time. So we'll be running the big unicorn party event on that front. For those looking for something to do. Otherwise, definitely take a break, take a vacation, enjoy a little bit of the time off on that front. We'll be doing a bunch of fun stuff in Discord, and anyway, it'll be a I can't wait to be on the other side of this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then off to the race.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all looking forward to the smoothness of a good solid network, and seeing how that game experience basically changes in that, and also getting a bunch of new folks in, I think will be fun, because once we get over there, obviously it'll be a lot easier for them to play and engage and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, I just wanted to come up, say good job. Thanks for all of the information and that, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you so much, Goliath. And Tarek is freaking out about his gathering card for the 3 weeks. And he always has a question. Why is the migration 3 weeks?
Because we're migrating, 2 years worth of data across, 25 core contracts, and it is honestly we've talking with the Arbitrum team about this. It is the largest migration, certainly of a gaming ecosystem in the history of the space, right? I mean, and blame me for putting way more on chain than potentially I had to. But if you think about the amount of data we've got to write to Zai, even as fast as Zai is, that's an enormous number of transactions to get those contracts to match the state at which they were paused on Polygon. And then you need, obviously, QA time against that, and making sure everything is ready to go. The last thing we want to do is flub the biggest launch since we launched the game.
So,
and
correct
still
me if
have
I'm
some
wrong.
PTSD on that front. So.
But I think one aspect here is this isn't like a lot of other migrations. They migrate the contracts and then they rely on the users to kind of migrate the data, right? Like I just did that with my CyberKongs going from Polygon to Ronin. I had to bridge all of them one by one to Ethereum and then to Ronin. So when they say like we migrated CyberKongs, like kind of you created a path for me to get there,
a bridge.
But I still had to do it. If I understand it right, Aaron, like the NFTs and stuff are going to migrate like as part of this. So we're doing the contracts and all of that data, the game state, all that. So we need all that to be paused while we're moving it, because if the game state changes, then we get inconsistencies, and that's a whole thing. So it's not all migrations are created equal. We're doing data and contracts, not just contracts. So a really important delineation.
For sure. Yep. The only thing players will have to migrate are their ERC20 tokens, Unum, and RBW, obviously, to CU. But yes, the whole point here was to try to make this as seamless as possible for the player community and set things up for success on the other side of it. So definitely a larger undertaking than many other projects in the space. So.
And it'll be downtime shared by everyone. So in some ways, it'll be like a little bit of a vacation where you can take a break and not worry about falling behind or other players getting ahead of you. We're all on the same footing. This is one of those unique times. It's like that one time they did the MMR reset in Dota. Like, okay, we're all fresh for a week. It's kind of like that. We all get a shared holiday. So we'll be heads down, but hopefully the community rallies. Good time to do a little Unicorn Con. I heard Aldan's got a nice pool that's open, taking visitors.
Aldan, if you got any invites, right here. Oh, looks like Glassrills wants to get up on the stage again. Come back up, hey.
Hey, let's make sure I got this mic right. Okay, hold on. Yeah, it's the right mic. Okay, great. All right.
You're good.
So yeah, so that's the one thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I'll ask the question this way. If we have all of our tokens in the game or staked, then we don't have to worry about anything whatsoever. So basically, get it in the game, get it staked, no problems. But otherwise, if it's hanging out there on your wallet, then you're going to have to deal with it, right?
Yes, that is the case. That is the case. We might, to make things easier, force a stash out and then do that. So I do need to circle up with the engineering team on that front. But yeah, your NFTs are getting migrated for you. The staking contract itself is getting migrated. There is an open question right now of whether or not you need to trigger a transaction to queue up that migration to the new staking contract on ARB1. So those are two finer details that I need to confirm with the team. But current understanding is that yes, if you have RBW and Unum stashed in the game, it will obviously come across. Because our server recognizes what is stashed in, and then the game bank itself will get filled up. So that's, all fine and dandy.
Okay. All right. That was the only question I had. I just want to make sure that was clear
Cool.
to everyone. So, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. We have a couple more questions here. One from CryptoLex. For staking and migration, they want to ask about staking lock periods. Will they be reset once we're on Zai, or will everything just be ported over as is?
Everything will be ported over as is on that front. If there are very few people who've provided RBW LP at this point, they're going to get unlocked because the wrapped ETH side of that. So they will get unlocked. But again, that's very, very not very many people. The single side RBW staking side, that is getting migrated across, and it will have the same time locks. So whatever state you're in, you will suddenly go to the new staking website, which, by the way, is getting our web team has built. So we're no longer using the kind of Vault front end. So it'll be fully kind of integrated into our website and UI, which is going to be a really, really big win. So yeah, and then, again, whatever amount of RBW you had in the contract will, of course, be converted into CU, and obviously CU tokens will be what is distributed, obviously, as the reward to the staking contract. And then if you choose to participate in the liquidity bootstrapping event, as well as providing CULP tokens and staking those, right, you're also earn Zai and other rewards on top of that.
All right. And another related question that we have, let's see, will there be a staking leaderboard as well?
Yes, that is part of the liquidity bootstrapping event. That liquidity bootstrapping event is going to have this staking leaderboard associated with it. And then your ranking we're trying to heavily incentivize liquidity in the first 60 days, which basically the event ends when we open the game up to the public. So really trying to go ham and get as much liquidity into the project as possible. Then obviously we hope player liquidity lands on the other side of the migration itself. And so
I might be wrong, but I think the question might be more about dual token staking versus single token staking. Is the leaderboard just for the dual token LP or?
Yeah, that's it.
just for the dual token. Yeah, just for
Okay.
the dual token staking.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, because the primary thing we all should care about right now is scaling liquidity into the project. So that's been the primary focus of mine. And again, you're going to see this crazy APY that is predominantly in Xi and tokens that are not CU as that incentive. That's like the base for everyone. And then if you are willing to provide liquidity in the first 60 days, you will rank on that leaderboard and you will get a lock drop over the course of a year, which allows us to create even juicier incentives on that front. So again, trying to replicate some of the success that we had very early on with the token launch, but pointed more so at providing liquidity, which is the primary KPI we care about.
Okay. And we have one more question. Will free to play ever come to see you?
Unicorn Party is free to play.
Mhm.
So yes. Yes, I view Unicorn Party as a Web2 vampire attack. It's real money skill-based games, which have been the only genre in mobile free-to-play that's actually been growing over the last few years. And I think is a really good overlap if you're trying to take a consumer from outside the Web3 space and bring them into it, because they understand and are already used to putting money into a game and potentially getting money out if they are skilled, right? And so I think it's a really good overlap. And the opportunity there is, again, huge, right? I mean, as much shit as we get or have gotten in the past around like Bingo and Solitaire, like these are evergreen titles that have been incredibly successful. Again, Bingo Cash spends $500 million on Apple search ads, just to give you an idea of the scale of these titles. And the goal in my mind is, can we take these real money skill-based gamers, get them into our ecosystem off the strength of our IP, and then differentiate from other games in the market, because you can actually win NFTs. Once you have these NFTs, okay, how, maybe they'll go and try some Rainbow Rumble. Maybe they'll trickle down even further into the core land gameplay, right? So I very much view Unicorn Party as our top of funnel player acquisition strategy. And again, trying to kind of do this Web2 vampire attack, right?
One other note on that, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but when the game is down, we are planning on adding a little bit of extra incentive around Unicorn Party. So while the core game will be down for that stretch of the migration, we will still have Unicorn Party stuff that we'll be able to play together for fun and pass the time while we're all on vacation on our mobile devices. So more details on that to come. But for those that enjoy Unicorn Party, we're going to try to put a little more focus on there while we can.
Absolutely.
sure.
And for those that don't enjoy Unicorn Party, we're gonna make you enjoy it.
Yeah. You're going to like it.
All right, those are all the questions that we have on our written questions thread. Chat, do you have any other last minute questions they want to throw at us? Because we are past the hour and we can call it a day, but let's see.
I have a
we
weird
have
question for Aaron that might be a little hard to answer, but I'm still into it.
Ooh.
So
Hit me.
on scale 1 to 10, how do you feel right now about the future and health of crypto unicorns, and how low did you feel on that scale in the depths of the bear market? Like, how much have you swung in terms of your own personal sentiment? Now, now that time has passed, there were some dark moments there before the Xi migration was locked in, and I'm curious how much you've inflected and what your like current pulse check is, Mr. Fearless Leader.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been a more bullish moment for our project in its history. So yeah, to kind of come out of 2023, which is a very hard, very tough year, and to have landed the kind of the Zai deal prior to them generating a token, and obviously just getting into the Arbitrum ecosystem. If you guys are following that, like Azuki is coming over, Anime Coin is coming over, right? I mean, Arbitrum has become the place to be. The timing on that front, I don't think could be, any better. And the thing for me is like we stuck to the strategy, and it did get tough last year to continue with that strategy, which was we're just going to keep our heads down, we're going to keep building the beachhead and kind of preparing for the coming wave. And now with the market swinging up, with GameFi getting hot again, and then of course the Zai narrative, the Arbitrum narrative, yeah. I mean, it's a complete 180. I do feel like I've come out of the heart of darkness, and staying very focused on we need to execute in this critical moment here, get to the other side, and then just continue doubling and tripling down on everything that we've built. We shipped early, we've shipped a lot, we've learned a lot, we've tweaked and refined a lot. I hope that the community here sees that. We finally have compliments around jousting, which I thought would never fucking happen. So yeah, I mean, generally I can't find reasons not to be bullish and excited here. And what we're looking for, liquidity injection into the economy, followed by player liquidity post the Zygration. So again, bullish.
We also have two new pretty senior hires that have come in that started in the month of March that I'm really excited about. One on the game design side and one like on the product management side. Really and good, talented senior people want to work for us, and we're choosing between good qualified candidates for these senior roles. That's like a really good sign, both like excitement around blockchain games and also just for Laguna games in general, that people are excited to work for us and are, see some of our issues and go, oh wow, yeah, I've got some ideas how we could solve that problem. Bring me on and let's knock this shit out of the park. Like it's a very bullish energy. So it's been really awesome for me to feel this injection of new eyes, new life. And I think we have some other new hires on the back end as well, the folks you don't see as much, but doing server work and all that stuff. And great to have some new blood injected at a time like this. It feels really, I hear investors say a lot like, how's the engineering room? And it's cool to see some like more positive energy get injected in.
For sure.
100%. Okay, we have one final question. What will happen to current leaderboards during migration? Will they be paused? For reference, I think that's the Tribes leaderboard, which will be ending middle of May, as well as the Tug of War.
Yeah, both those events end prior to the kickoff of migration. So we won't have any issues there. And then we'll have new leaderboards that spin up the day we open up to the public on Zai. So the live ops calendar, I think, lines up nicely there, and there shouldn't be any overlap during downtime.
All planned, chat, all according to plan. Okay, that's our final question. Yes, it is our final question. Okay, that concludes our town hall. And as for other questions, if you have them, ask them in the thread and I'll try to answer them later. We're going to post a recording of this in our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. And don't forget to share this town hall with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam, the people you married, who couldn't make it. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out in our support channels, the Mod Support channel and the Ask LG Team channel. This is again been Sparkly Unicorn with Stealthy on Tech, hosting co-founder and CEO Aron as well as Zayori. Good morning, good night, and see you in game, Unicorn fam. See you in Psy on June.
See you, everybody. Thanks a lot.
See ya. Do we get it?